Here's Linton, and Len is the CEO of a company he's explained to you in great detail, One Northwest Content, and you're going to see how he's able to change from a brick and mortar environment into a virtual environment, the same way we are going to experiment with both ourselves. Thanks a lot, Lynn.
Great, thank you, Tom and Neil. Well, it's always fun to talk about, a baby that has kind of gotten to teenage years and is showing great promise. And so that's really what where we are with our business right now. It's actually One NW Contact, and the reason that the name was created was people always ask, well, what does that mean? Well, we're nationwide because that's where our agents are, and we're actually have agents all over North America, it turns out. By accident, we hired a couple people as virtual agents that were here in LA, but we discovered on one of our programs that we got one IP address out of the Philippines, it just popped up, and then we got another IP address out of Costa Rica. And we talked to the people, and they said, well, we go back and forth. And so, as far as we knew, they were working every day. It was very interesting. So I'll kind of get into that. But so we're nationwide. The one just gets us ranked ahead of anybody else that doesn't have a 1 or a 2 or a 3. And we're in the contact center business. And for those of you that don't know, basically it's a call center, but we also respond to email requests for companies. We respond to chat requests. And many call centers are now getting into social media responses. We're not doing that as yet because it's a whole different skill set. So with that, let's get going on what we do. So we moved the company to the cloud. And the reasons for that, we had a 140-seat call center.
No, you're good.
Had a 140-seat call center in Camarillo. That we built as a result of a successful business here in Thousand Oaks and just ran out of space. And the challenge of being a California employer was quite daunting, it turned out. And that was really because of 2 reasons. Number one, it's very difficult to find the talent that we needed to do sales programs and to do many of the kinds of business-to-business programs that companies are looking to have done. We also had issues of just being a California employer. You put 140 people together, many of which are low income, and you have very interesting interactions that are really hard to control. And those interactions cost a lot of money. And so we had a collection agency that was willing to, that had been a tenant of ours, that had acquired another agency and wanted to take over the space, and we said, sounds like a great deal. So made that move. So let's talk a little bit about the virtual. I've got to figure out how I'm going to advance this. So why would we go virtual, move it in the cloud? There are huge cost advantages, which I'll explain, both in terms of expense and capital. The single biggest factor is recruiting flexibility. The ability to really get agents that meet the requirements of projects that we take on. Client requirements, constantly changing, both in terms of expanding, contracting teams, and finding specific talent that's needed. We're talking to a Japanese company that has SharePoint applications, and they want to have us start, they're talking to us about selling some of their products. And so they want to have people that have SharePoint sales experience. Well, that's a specialty skill that probably is not available in Thousand Oaks, but it certainly is very readily available throughout the United States. And so the wonders of Craigslist, put ads out, and within 5 days had 10 people with sales experience that were interested in an at-home job. So the model really is fabulous from a standpoint of obtaining talent. It's also true of management talent. Many times you find an individual you think would be great as part of your team, and you're faced with the issue of, do we do a relocation? Okay. Back of the screen here.
No, you're fine as long as you stay within
Okay.
that speaker.
All right, great, got you. you know, oftentimes you find somebody you think would be great on your management team, and then you're faced with relocation issues. And in this model, people just stay where they are. So recruited a trainer who actually had to move to Kentucky, and got to Kentucky last week, and talked to her last week, and she joined us today, and she was excited because she comes from a very strong call center background. We have a manager in Phoenix. We have a manager that moved from Phoenix to Paso Robles a couple of weeks ago. We have another manager that's in Oceanside, and another person, another member of management that's in Tennessee. And we have a VoIP phone system, so everybody has an extension. They plug it into their internet line, and we dial each other on respective extensions. And of course, if a customer calls in, this, you know, it's seamless as far as connections are concerned. And of course, one of the beauties of this is there are almost no capacity limitations.
Just question, do you consider them employees or independent contractors?
Everybody's an independent contractor,
Okay, including the management people?
which is, you know, skirting an issue, but that's how we do it.
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So green is good, and clean is too. And so we're very green and we're very clean.
Why don't you tell us how that's clean or green?
Well, clean from the standpoint that, you know, I'll get to that near the end of the presentation, but, you know, the carbon footprint, the whole thing is really dramatically reduced.
Right.
So just about every call center has a mission statement. I'm not gonna go through this, but basically, we operate under the same standards as any call center organization would. We have a dozen years of experience in the industry, and the fact that we're virtual or bricks and mortar makes no difference. In fact, one of the real benefits is we don't have many of the security system requirements and all that, because our whole internet, everybody connects to the internet, everything's encrypted, we know where people are, and so we're more able to be PCI compliant in this environment than we were when we were running a call center with card access keys and all the other stuff. I won't go into a lot of detail here, but we're at 800 square feet as opposed to 12,000. Have $900 rent on a month-to-month versus $25,000 with a multi-year lease. We're paying $10 an hour, what we used to pay $9 here locally. Also, another beauty of this is that for inbound programs, clients pay us by the minute of talk time, and we pay agents by the minute. So it gives us huge flexibility on staffing and planning, which I'll get into. So we schedule by the hour versus shift. We don't think of shifts. I'll talk about how our cloud computing works in another slide, but basically we had $25,000 worth of leases a month and a $2,000 to $8,000 IT staff that we don't have anymore because the cloud-based systems are all fully integrated. We're on a system called 5.9. They have 100,000 users. So they keep this thing up to date. It's got 2 data centers. The thing is solid as a rock. And so we have much less downtime than we did with our own systems and much less expense.
How much are you paying them?
$100 an agent a month for the license, and then we pay for long distance, and we have recording ports and a few other things. So in effect, it's going to be in the ball, you know, for most agents, it's in the ballpark of $200 a month.
And so what's the difference between your brick and mortar costs versus your present cloud cost?
It's 20% of what the bricks and mortar cost was.
Great.
And we're not worrying about phone systems and T1s because it's all fully integrated in the web. So we don't have janitorial staff. Accounting is vastly simplified. Payroll, it's accounts payable and invoicing. We don't have furniture. We don't have utilities to worry about. We don't have security. We don't have shifter differentials. The purpose of this is to show, generally, to a client, an at-home agent is gonna cost in the ballpark of $23. That would be a good price for an outbound program. If you go to one of the larger people like West or Convergsys, it'd be a great rate to get it for $27. If you look at nearshore, which is the Caribbean, Mexico, Costa Rica, parts of Central America, it's in the ballpark of $18 an hour. And then if you go to the Philippines, it's in the ballpark of 13 or 13.50. So as you look at some of these other statistics, your call costs are higher with at-home agents, but you also have a higher grade agent, so you get better sales conversions. And that's just this is an industry sell. I just want to show if you know if you like numbers, you want to see comparisons. Typically, companies would expect to see something in the range of $20, $23 an hour. India, you get down to $10 an hour. Philippines are 16, and many of the larger call center organizations that take on 50, 100, 200, 300 person projects, they'll be at a $30 an hour billing rate. So we are very well positioned to pick up business, and the at-home agent call centers, by the way, there's some very large ones. Live Ops has been in business for about 15 years. They have over 20,000 agents. They're up in San Jose.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Could you give a 30-second overview of what a call center is?
Oh, sure. Yeah, be glad to. A call center takes and receives phone calls for clients.
So is it an answer?
So,
Is it an answer
so we
service?
would, for example, we have customer service programs where we will outsource, we'll be an outsourcer. And so a company that does its own customer service may require evening coverage, they may require weekend coverage, and they only want to run one shift. So they have the infrastructure, they have the training, they have all the policies, procedures, they have all their systems for communicating amongst their own other departments. And they would outsource to a company like ours for these off hours. And we would then train our agents to do the work according to their standards.
Okay.
At the same time, there are other programs where companies don't want to have a dedicated sales force. Or maybe they have a sales force, but they have difficulty getting leads. So we generate leads for companies. So we do B2B leads. We do sell product as well. And then in between with consumers, a very big market today is education. Whenever the economy takes a major dive like it has, people go back to school. So there's huge competition among both bricks and mortar universities as well as online universities for students. And so we are right now generating around 300 leads a day for different aggregators that then sell these leads to universities. We're talking to a technical university about outsourcing their admissions process to us. There are companies that have online regional directories that need to get subscribers to sign up. We do that kind of work. So call center, basically, we will use the telephone on an outbound basis, and then in addition to telephone on inbound, we respond to emails with training, and we respond to chat, as people have it on their website.
So is telemarketing a big segment of your organization?
It's about 30%. The real stability in a call center business is inbound. But it
So
takes,
Guthrie Ranker or something like that, would you take their offer if they were?
oh, sure, yeah.
Do they do that all internally, or do they hire someone like yourself?
They do most of their stuff internally, but we're actually about to have a conversation. So they are starting to look at that. Because the whole DRTV market with this economy, it's also taken a dive. And so the cost of them running their dedicated call centers, when they're not getting the sales that they're used to, one way they can keep their profit is to get rid of some overhead. So, does that?
Well,
tackle that?
using a next step is that they have incentives for productivity, any of these
Oh, sure.
outbound. So you have bonus structure or some
Yeah,
kind of
I mean,
incentive.
it's really like a sales, some teams are like sales, some simply generate leads. We have a paving company in Chicago that does all the paving for Best Buy, Costco, a number of the shopping centers, large shopping center organizations, Target, and their Southern California office is in Corona, and they wanted to generate some more leads. So they hired us to get lists. We called junior colleges, we called additional shopping center organizations, manufacturers, and generated a bunch of leads for them. And they're now talking to us about doing that for them in Atlanta. So that's a situation where we have a script, we engage a decision maker, we qualify them, and then give the information to the organization and their salespeople to it. But we also sell product.
So how do you get your business?
Networking, through the web, but it's really pretty much through, primarily through word of mouth.
Okay.
But blogs and different kinds of, web marketing techniques also make a difference. This is a very busy slide, but I think the real point here is a 100-seat call center with a PBX phone system, an ACD, which is a system to distribute the phone calls that are coming in, and other equipment. Might look at anywhere from $750,000 to $2 million capital investment to support 100 agents. To Neil's question, what's it cost us? $150 to $190 a month, including telecom for each agent. I don't even own a phone system. My old telecom vendor has a big Mitel switch in San Diego in a co-located data center. So we have 15 lines on his system. And we have the SIP phone numbers locally, so we have a local phone number. And I can pick up the phone, take it out of my office, take it home, plug it in, and my telephone will ring there, or it would ring if I went on vacation. Different call centers in different vertical industries have different cost structures. I think the idea here is that the salary for call center managers, agents, leads varies all over the place. We are basically considered in the outsourcing world, and so many of our expenses, would fit into this outsourcing mode. So again, with our model and the fact that people can work from their homes, they're satisfied that they actually take home more money and they have less expense in commuting and other things, so they are able to, be satisfied and have a great career path at a lower cost structure. Again, busy slide. One of the big issues here in the call center industry is, do you go offshore? Do you do homeshore, nearshore, which is the Caribbean where language skills and education is better? Or do you do it in the United States? And there are a whole series of trade-offs, but basically high value calls are coming back to the United States, is the real message from the cell. And we are not necessarily the recipient of it, but you see many, many call centers that are in the virtual space are growing very dramatically. And many companies are getting a backlash from the Indian and Philippine call centers, because people just are not able to get answers to their customer service questions, and one of the big things in the industry is what they call first call resolution. And so the idea is you get your question answered or your problem solved with a single call. And statistics say frequently that that does not happen. So even though there's a labor benefit to India, it frequently would take 2 phone calls or 3 phone calls, so suddenly that benefit's been erased. So I started to mention live ops, 20,000 agents. They got into a major squabble with the state of California. And so there are no agents in the state of California for live ops. There are no agents in the state of New York, no agents in the state of Massachusetts, because these 3 states do not believe in independent contractors. And the state of California actually sued live ops on behalf of a couple of their agents, and it was a 3-year lawsuit. And I imagine you sort of saw some of that, but live ops eventually won. But so what's happening is the industry is just basically abandoning certain states that have, these harassment type techniques. And you have a company called Alpine Access that's in Colorado, and they have around 10,000 agents. They do primarily customer service, and they've opted to have employees. And their Arise is in Florida, has about 7,000 agents, and they have a mixture between employees and independent contractors. So the whole industry is sort of trying to feel its way through this whole process as well. How many at-home agents are there? Well, nobody really knows, but statistics are saying it's somewhere around 350,000. It's been rapidly growing though. You see a curve going up. Because of technology, it really makes this very feasible. Typical at-home agent, 40 years old, college educated, 63% of them. 70% have some sort of management experience. In terms of sales, many of them will have 5 to 10 years or 15 years of sales experience. Especially salespeople. Salespeople worked out of their home offices for a long time and gotten in cars and driven all over the countryside. They don't have to do that today. So salespeople are delighted with this model. You can be located anywhere as long as you have a broadband connection. And when we do recruiting, we do background checks. We do personality profiling, because one of the things we have to do is see, can somebody work independently, and can they stay motivated and stay focused on what they're doing? Do they have an attention span? How money motivated are they? We like people that are money motivated. How do they deal with conflict? Because they'll be on the phone and there could be conflict, and it's easy to get off the phone and avoid that conflict. So if they deal well with conflict, they'll stay working. And we have people apply online. They go through an entire suite of tests and evaluations, both of themselves and the computer and the internet connections, before any of our recruiters talk to them, which also shows that they're self-directed. And then when we do training, we use GoToMeeting, and we share desktops back and forth between our trainers and the agents themselves and other agents. So we keep people engaged. And many times this works better than we used to in the classroom and the call center.
Well, can you compare that to your Emeryville facility? Go back to that other slide. If you looked at who you employed there, how would that compare to that matrix?
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. Average person in a bricks and mortar call center, 20, 22, 23 years old. A lot of single moms with kids. Guys that have bounced from job to job, people that have worked in warehouses, all kinds of different positions. Very little college, many haven't completed high school. It's a job. And trying to have somebody really separate themselves from the crowd, the water cooler crowd, is really challenging too. So trying to get people to excel in that bricks and mortar environment is difficult, because there's groupthink, and everybody just keeps a moderate level of performance. And of course, you promote your supervisors out of that same pool of people. So that becomes challenging. How do you find somebody who's willing to separate from the crowd and become a leader? And so developing management in the bricks and mortar environment is very challenging. And frequently, people move from company to company, like people used to do, people used to doing in other corporations, just to be able to break through that. Yeah.
How can it be less challenging to look at promoting management when your employment base is across the country versus within a call center?
We let people know. We identify people, make them leads. We'll pull people who have been a successful lead, make them, put them in QA, move them from QA into a supervisor position. And so we announce it to everybody. We have an intranet. And so in the intranet, we do daily announcements. And so agents find out that, people are moving up and getting promoted.
What kind of team building can be done, or is there any?
I'm sorry?
What kind of team building can be done, or is there any?
Each of these groups that's on a campaign will be anywhere from 5 to 20 people. And so that's one of the primary roles of our supervisors. We don't call them supervisors because everybody's an independent contractor, so we call them project managers. But their role is to create sense of urgency, excitement, team goals, achieving goals, and so we can really apply a lot of analytics to an environment that is designed for analytics, because we have people that are more educated and can understand these things than in the traditional call center. So the whole idea of better performance is really easier to implement in this environment than it is in a traditional bricks and mortar call center.
How much input do these more senior people give to you in terms of what you're doing and what you're gonna improve in, the feedback and maybe ideas to improve your business?
All the time. I mean, that's our philosophy of management, is that we really want people to dig in and show initiative. But we also have a culture of accountability, and so if they say that they want to do something, then they do. So we just hired a person to be a trainer, because we really want to seriously grow this educational transfer business. And we've got about 30 people doing that today. And so the project manager can't manage the people and do the training. So this person that we hired, who's living in Kentucky now, had some family issues and moved back there, and she said, I wasn't sure if I was gonna have an adequate broadband connection. I mean, she's like an hour from Louisville, an hour from Memphis. I mean, it's out there. And she's delighted to be able to continue her career, which is call centers, doing this, and there's a referral to us. And so she suggested some ways she'd like to approach training, and we said, hey, this is what this is for, let's go for it. So, that's the great thing about a growing company. You always be receptive to new ideas. So we kind of covered a lot of this. Another big thing, language skills. We had a client that is a nonprofit organization for entertainment marketing professionals. They had a conference in Buenos Aires, and they have people that do TV and movie production all over South America. And 70% of the people that are in their South American, Central American group, including Miami, are bilingual, but many only speak Spanish. So we were able to recruit a couple of people on the East Coast that spoke Cuban Spanish. We obviously found some people out here that spoke Central American Spanish, and we were able to contact the 4,000 people within 2 weeks. We got them about 12 sign-ups at $900 a sign-up. So they made money by hiring us to promote this conference, because they basically got signups they wouldn't have otherwise had. And it was a good gig. And so we can find language skills very readily, because we know where, you know where to advertise. There are large Greek communities, for example, around Chicago. There are large Korean communities around Virginia, obviously here. Many cable TV companies and others have specific programs where they want to market to particular demographic groups. And so the issue of getting language skills in call centers is a big deal. And it's something that we can do very readily. Recruiting, highly automated, because we want people to show that they have the ability to walk through a complex process. Currently, about 1 out of 30 people make it, who apply, make it to 2 weeks into the job. But that's good, because people fall out at different, as you can see, people will fall out at different phases of the process. And so we get a high-quality work product for our client. And some of those people that fall out say, you know what, I just really didn't like the campaign, and they stay on the beach until we have a different campaign, we call them. And so we have a pool of over 900 people that we've evaluated for different positions over the last 2 years, who work, either never worked for us, but keep staying in touch, or have worked for us, and it wasn't really what they wanted. They really wanted inbound, or they wanted something else. And so every now and then they say, hey, do you have any openings? And so you just maintain a friendly relationship, and people do come back. But again, it's performance, and so a lot of times people think this would just be an interesting part-time job, and something they can do in between dropping kids off or whatever, or it's something they can do while they're working a second job, and so we kind of home in on that. In the traditional call center, it takes about 8 weeks for an agent to become productive. For us, it's about 3. Because people they're self-motivated, and they like distance learning, and so they self-educate.
But you got a whole different quality of people, I mean,
Yeah.
at home versus what you had in brick and mortar.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
I mean, we have people that would never set foot in a call center. They wouldn't walk in the back door with all the people with their tattoos, and past the cigarette butts and the cloud of smoke at the back door. But they can go out and pick up the newspaper in the morning and say, I'm going to work and I love my job, to their neighbor. So it's really a whole different environment. It's fun being able to provide that kind of a work environment. So, their question before, we do inbound campaigns of all kinds. We do outbound B2C, which is business to consumer. Political, we do surveys. We sell things to consumers, we generate leads. Same thing with business to business. So, flexible scheduling, reduced expenditures, we eliminate the commute. Some statistics have said commuting costs the average person about $9,000 to $10,000 a year. There's a better work-life balance for our agents. There is a comfort from working from home. I'm not sure I would want to do it every day, but I don't mind, first couple hours in the morning. But it gives people the ability to maintain a lifestyle in addition to a career, as opposed to doing a lot of commuting. Because as we have these large cities that we all live in, people inevitably live in one place and work somewhere else. And no matter where you decide to buy a home, the next job you get is on the other side of the planet. So we really cut that down. And one of the really big issues too, because our workforce is distributed, we don't have the issues that many traditional call centers will have, whether it be weather issues, snow days, power outages, because we can always bring people onto a campaign if we know that people in Ohio are blacked out today. Yeah,
So those salary figures, those averages that you were showing, the different functional areas,
right.
were those based on typically full-time agents or part-time?
In the work-at-home environment, people work 5 to 6 hours a day, and they generally work kind of hard. And, after that, even in a call center, if you have an 8-hour shift, and you have an hour for lunch or half an hour for lunch, and you have 15-minute breaks, people are shot by 7 hours. I mean, the last 3 or 4 hours is a complete waste, no matter what you're doing. And so we really are able to optimize what we're doing, and that seems to be sort of, the kinds of numbers people like.
So you do, it sounds like you have folks who are actually doing this as kind of a second part-time job for supplemental income.
Many of these jobs have commissions with them. People are making $15, $16, $18 an hour with commissions. We have a group of people that sells to automobile dealerships, and a successful person there is making $120,000 a year. So it's not just all low-paying jobs. It ranges. Camille?
Have you had any experience hiring handicapped people or folks with other different kinds of disabilities that maybe were immobile?
I just actually had a conversation today with a junior blind in Orange County, and we're putting together a program where they've been looking for a partner to do some training, and so we're testing their reader on this 5.9 system this week. And their strategy is they're gonna go get gigs from companies, and if it's a 15-person project, and maybe they can supply 3 or 4 or 5 to start out with, then we would provide the overflow until we could get additional people trained. So we could deliver for the company and at the same time provide the employment. So that's an idea that, just really popped up, and it'll be fun. And so they're gonna get the government grants to do that with. Or go to, large public employers like the gas company, electric company that have all these offsets for SBA and other things. So yes. And turns out we have a couple of people who were having difficulty signing their independent contractor agreements because we use a system called DocuSign, it's electronic signatures. This guy said, I haven't told anybody yet, but I'm partially blind and my reader can't work with this thing. Do you mind if I print it out and sign it, scan it, and send it back? I said, no, that's fine. As long as you're making production, we don't discriminate. So we do have a couple people that are sighted. So, and as you know, I'm a little hard of hearing, and I'm pretty blind. So here's what everybody likes formulas, right? We're technical people. So IT plus P to the third power equals E to the third power. We are able to do what we're doing because of information technology, that's the IT. You have to come up with policies and processes and procedures that meet whatever the requirements of your business are in order to make all this really hang together. And we've invented things that weren't out there. Other companies, we've seen the wisdom of what they do and borrowed some of their approaches. But the net effect is, it's an economic force that really is sweeping the country. And because we have a good internet, it's not something that's happening yet in other countries nearly as dramatically. But certainly Europe, South Africa is now training people to be call center agents for Europe because of the backlash against India. So there's a big movement in South America, in South Africa, to train people for call center work. And they're doing it through the internet. So we do save a lot of energy, and there's certainly environmental benefits that come from this whole thing. It's been estimated that we reduce all this air pollution, reduction in air pollution, gasoline consumption, and reduced commuting. This is kind of an industry statistic. I'm sure I believe it, but I'm kind of a skeptic on these things anyhow. But, you can extend some of the numbers, and a lot of us possible. And we know that Silicon Valley, Sun Microsystems had people working at home 2 days a week for a number of years. IBM has been a long time leader in that, and many other companies. And so it really saves time, it saves money, good quality of life. So there are 10 reasons why you can do this, which I won't go into because I think I'm running long.
No, you're okay. Time-wise,
Fewer traffic accidents.
I don't think that you really is right,
You
right?
know,
Your
I mean-
time is fine, Len.
Pardon?
You're not running long, you're okay.
Okay. But, you know, I mean, every day that school's out and there's a holiday, you know, we know what the freeways are like. That's really cool. You know, there are probably many ways in which, you know, businesses could do more virtual work. And there's certainly different positions, you know, we know salespeople certainly work from their homes very regularly. And so, it is really both very clean, it's green, and it's a great business model. The other thing, it's a growing industry. So, the occupations with the largest job growth projected by the US government are computer service representatives, or customer service representatives. So there's a 17% annual requirement for new people in the industry. And that's even with stuff going offshore, even now it's coming back, so it's probably growing faster. So the call center business is alive and well. And for you financial folks, earnings multiples for large call centers, publicly traded, they go, you know, and they've been rising again, but, you know, 24.8 times.
What are your multiples?
And then for EBITDA multiples, they're running 9.1, which, so they're kind of climbing back up to where they were in '07, bubble days.
And how does your company's multiples compare to these publicly traded companies?
It's interesting, we get calls every now and then where companies are looking for call centers. They basically want a call center to be at 5 million to 10 million to make it an acquisition target. And so some of these numbers fit in there. We're kind of on a run right now of about 2.5. So our 2012 goal was to get to 5. And so we're at about 120 agents, we'd like to be at 300 agents by the end of 2012.
Are you gonna double it?
Yeah. And you know, critical mass is everything. You know, when you start off with 10 people, and you talk to people and they say, so how many people do you have? So, well, about 30. That's still not very big. We'll wait till you get bigger, you know, so. John?
How do you monitor hours versus production and also quality of the response?
Great question. So here's how it works. You're an agent, you get up in the morning, do whatever you need to do, you go sit at your computer, you check your email, you look at, you know, what's happening on Fox Sports or whatever, and so you've got your browser open. You type in www.five9.com, you have a username and a password, and you're suddenly into your campaign. It's got the 1NW contact logo on it, and you're now logged in. You don't get paid for being logged in, you get paid for being available. So when you log in and say, now I'm available to take calls, the system will start giving you calls.
Mhm.
If you pause or you take a break, system stops giving you calls, they give them to somebody else. And you don't get paid for that. So you get paid for available time on an outbound campaign. On an inbound campaign, same thing, you've got to be available when the call comes in, and you only get paid for talk time. So our supervisors have a dashboard, and they see everybody that's on their team, who's logged in, who isn't. If you don't log in, you're gonna get a phone call. You get an instant message first, you get an email, and you're liable to get a phone call. And so one of the really big things that we do is schedule adherence is critical in our business. And especially this whole communication about creating sense of teamwork and seriousness. Schedule adherence is our big deal. So people they have to show up for 90% or 95%, depending on the campaign, of the time that they say they will. And so they have a chance each week to say, these are the hours I'm gonna work. And then when that happens, they've got to show. And if they don't, if they're MIA 3 days in a row, they're gone. And that's another benefit of an independent contractor, we don't get into a big scuffle about stuff. And so they know. And so then we record all phone calls. Supervisors can listen in to their calls, and they know that. You as an agent have an instant messaging to your supervisor. And same thing, the supervisor has instant messaging back. Then people have their email. And if need be, people have cell phones, they'll call. And so the system keeps a log of all of the activity, dispositions of every phone call, recordings are available to supervisor, we have QA, and we offshore too. There's a QA company in the Philippines we've just engaged. Instead of paying one of our agents $12 an hour, we can pay $6 an hour and get kind of a really good objective QA of phone calls. And so people's phone calls are QA'd, depending on the campaign, different frequency. And a report will go back to you at the end of the week of the hours that you were available, and you then create an invoice and send it to us. We then pay you. So that's how we kind of keep track of things. There's a lot of interaction, and so people are getting more attention in this environment many times than they would in a regular call center environment, because many supervisors in call center environments play favorites, and so if the supervisors walk by, you know you're going to be free for the next couple hours, and you can goof off and do what you need to do.
So,
Is the
you're,
routing all automated?
I'm sorry?
Routing all automated?
Yeah,
In rollover, with rollover?
right. We have IVRs, and so we catch calls. And so we do lots of complex campaigns with people, and that's another thing with our old system that we spent a lot of money to have. You always had to have professional services to implement the IVR, to implement scripting, to do this. Scripting is a Word document. You can put a hyperlink in the Word document, you upload it into the system, it converts it into HTML, and the hyperlink is left intact. We can have agents go to log into websites for clients. We can set up VPN tunnels, and so we can do all the kinds of things you would do in a high technology environment with no extra support needed. And it's really powerful.
So that is done, that back office part of it, that technology part is done by that 59.com?
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, they have about 100,000 agents, they say, log in every day. So,
but they supply all of the hardware to do the routing, call routing, things like that?
yeah, everything's in the cloud.
Right, you didn't have to invest any money in putting that system into place.
Isn't it beautiful?
So you pay per
Green
seat.
and-
Yeah, you paid.
Pay per seat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
about $150 a month, including long distance. I don't even have to mess around with long distance carriers. Now, I'd like to, because I'm paying a little bit more than I should for long distance, but the upside is ease of use, flexibility, reporting, very strong.
They also provide your storage then, as far as server space?
Well, for recordings, no, they basically clear recordings off every 30 days. So what you do with the recordings is you have a very easy little scripting tool. The end of, you run a service at night, and if this campaign is connected to this client, we ask the client to get an FTP site, or we get them one, and we charge them for it. And we just upload all of their recordings to their FTP site.
Incentives or
They have
in
their
terms of
password.
motivation. What separates the medium or low to medium to high income earners in this? I'm not asking for anything privy to what you are. but,
Oh, that's fine.
If someone in this room wanted to do this, what could they expect? At what levels would they be able to earn, and what kind of responsibilities would they have?
Okay. Well, I'll give you kind of a couple ranges here. You know, our education leads that we're generating, $10 an hour. If people are doing 1.5 posts an hour, which means they've talked to someone, and we use internet opt-in leads for that. And we said, we're not gonna be buying, we used to buy data for some of these campaigns. So on one hand, you're running a call center, you're trying to manage people, and you're also buying data. And anybody that has ever bought data to call knows that, you know, next to bankers, who are very deceptive and dishonest people, data people really are. Bankers aren't. I mean, every data person's a crook, it's amazing. And so you buy this high volume of data, and you know, you get different varying levels of performance. So we now insist that our clients buy the data, they provide it to us. But if somebody's getting 1.5 posts an hour, they're gonna get a commission check each month for $150, $200. So, you know, they're making $13, $14 an hour. And that's kind of sort of a low thing. We've got a client on the East Coast that does a bunch of mailers to auto dealers to promote their service department or promote new cars or cars coming off a lease, come into our dealership. So they got this very great idea that if they used a call center to call maybe half the people they mailed to, the dealership would get more consistent shows showing up at the dealership for these promotions. And they were very wise to hire us to do this. Well, that's been a really great little annuity. They'll give us 4,000 people to call or 2,000 people to call. We either get 20 appointments or 40 appointments. They say, the minute you get 40 appointments, stop. They pay us 45 cents a call. It improves their credibility with the dealership. It's great for us. We put Craigslist ads in the local area because they're all around New York, so you know, there are lots of New York, New Jersey, Brooklyn accents, Bronx accents. And we hire people local who know who the dealerships are. And our son lives in Brooklyn, and he said, oh yeah, Bayside's advertising all the time. I hear them all the time. Well, so that's one of their customers. So that's just an appointment setting job. So we just pay hourly. But then we also have programs where we're selling high-ticket software products that really require a lot of skill. And you know, in effect, we're doing what a company would do, and we're basically managing their agents. And the benefit of this, of course, is put them on the dialer, and they may not put it in predictive mode. They may just say, okay, I'm going to dial all my own calls. But we now have a record of who they called, how long they were on, was there a callback? If they quit, we've got a whole record of all callbacks that need to be done, and we bring somebody else on. And so, you know, the glass bowl is there. And it's something that most sales organizations can't really achieve. And we achieve this through our internet connectivity and the system.
But on the high end, what can somebody earn in the most productive management level?
Well, as an agent, these guys selling car dealer products, they're making $120,000 a year, working 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day.
There's a highly skilled.
They know how to talk to car dealer dealership owners. And so we have people in between. And as we grow, there'll be more and more of those. So we're still a small company, and we really only scratch the surface with what's out there.
You said that all of your people are independent contractors, so therefore they're getting I-9s at the end of the year?
Yeah, 1099s, yeah. Yeah.
So they're responsible for all of their taxes, state, federal, local, Medicare, everything.
Right.
They understand that going in.
And one of the documents that they get early on, that they sign, that we send out 3 times a year through our intranet, you know, is the responsibilities of an independent contractor and the benefits of being an independent contractor. Be sure you keep track of various expenses that you have. Be sure that you maintain proper records. You may want to consider incorporating live ops. We were an exchange partner theirs for a while. And we thought we would get some significant business from them. And they thought they would give us significant business, and it just didn't work. Their sales organization didn't like the idea, but management was saying they didn't want projects that were smaller than 10 agents. So they wanted to have people that they could partner with to do that. Well, so we got to know some of their systems. They were at the point where people were paying for their own background checks in all these companies. We paid for them ourselves. And a number of the companies are saying they want people to incorporate. And, you know, teaching people to be entrepreneurs.
Why do they want them to incorporate? Just for one person?
To preserve the independent contractor.
It's really the liabilities.
I mean, if California came after somebody,
So I didn't hire Joe, I hired Joe Inc.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, here you are sitting in Sacramento and you've been earning, you know, $15 an hour, and the state comes and says, you owe me, you know, $4,000. And you say, no, I don't. I set my own schedule, I pay for my own training, I follow all the rules. How do you fight it? So, that's the onerous part of government.
So did you say that each of the agents have to have their own IP phone?
No, all the people on our management team.
Oh, on the management team, okay.
Yeah, no, what's really cool about this system, some of this, like Lab Ops and others, require people to have a second phone in their home. Well, that becomes expensive. Everybody does it with a USB headset that plugs right into the port on the computer, and it's a soft phone. And that's why we test their bandwidth, and we make sure we go back. And if they have any audio, the great thing about the way the system works too, is that they're watching videos or doing a lot of instant messaging, their audio quality will degrade, and our supervisors will hear it, and they may even get kicked off the system, by the system. Every time you say, so, were you watching a video, or were you doing anything? No, yeah, I had a couple things. So, well, if you shut that down, you know the system will work. So, it's self-policing. Yes?
A typical person on the phone receiving phone calls for you, how often is the phone going to ring? And then how long are they actually going to be on the phone? Is there going to be a 5-minute phone call and 5 minutes in between each call, or is it seconds between each call?
Well, that's, again, you know, you get,
Average.
it's all over the place. Live Ops built this 20,000 agent strong organization by being the primary organization that the DRTV industry used to receive phone calls for infomercials. And Guthrie Renker, who was mentioned, has their own call center, but just about everybody else in the industry outsources that. So you've got, you know, people running big ads frequently. You've got to have 200 agents ready to go, and the burst of calls comes in over an hour's time, and then tapers off very dramatically. You know, sort of like a stadium getting out, or a movie theater, or whatever. And so agents will be happy to work by the minute because they're able to predict that volume. You know, we're smaller, we don't take on those kinds of projects, so, you know, we try to take on projects where there's kind of a steady number of calls. We'll train agents for 4 or 5 different client projects, and it's all scripted, so they'll see what number is ringing, and it'll say Stratford University Student Services, it'll say, you know, AT&T cell phone activation, whatever it is. And,
Okay, but those people are only paid for the amount of time they're actually on a call, correct?
right.
Now, how would the managers get paid if they're not actually taking on a phone call? Are they on a salary, or are they on a?
Yeah, effectively.
Okay.
They're on hourly, they send us an invoice every week.
Okay.
So that you have managers as independent contractors who are supervising other independent contractors.
I'm talking to an attorney.
Well, I'm asking, is that, because what are the responsibilities of a manager of these people? I mean, they're not in the same room, obviously, but they're monitoring their activity,
Right.
and I'm assuming they do some level of troubleshooting, and generally have some responsibility. Do they have any hiring and firing responsibilities? What are they doing? Okay,
They have firing, but not hiring.
okay.
Or they can suggest the firing, but you do the firing?
No, they will terminate people for you know,
Not
schedule,
being available.
schedule issues, and just lack of performance.
Okay, but they're being paid independently as well.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Back to his question back here, how long does the phone ring before it gets answered?
We try to pick up in 20 to 30 seconds. And we always put an IVR in the front end of it so it picks up. And an IVR is what's called interactive voice response. So it's basically a system with a recorded voice. My wife, who's got a great accent, every now and then does these if we want to be really sophisticated. And for example, we got a program we did, and this is a cool thing too, we did, I don't even know how I got this one, but Santa Clara County called me last summer and said, can you program an IVR to do a survey of people that have been at the tax assessor's office and had some transaction, and what we want to do is get a customer satisfaction survey. So once a quarter, we get everybody that's been in the office today, they give us a list, put it on the diet or call them, and the IVR runs them through a bunch of questions. Did you come in about, was it business or was it home? Was it property? Was it personal items? Did you come in about your airplane or your boat? Or did you come in about, your food truck or whatever it may be? Or was your home mortgage, and were you satisfied? And they push buttons, and they go through the process, and it costs them 15 cents a minute. And we charge them $1,000 to program it. And so, that's one where there's no agents at all, and it's really consistent.
And I would like to point out that the person doing the recording didn't get paid anything.
But she does sound really sophisticated.
She doesn't dare go to the labor board.
No comment.
So,
How much customer service support are you doing?
we're about half and half.
Really? Okay, and so like, do you have any examples of, I mean, you don't have to be specific if you don't want, but, like, specific sort of technical training, maybe online or, software, that kind of thing?
Right.
And you talked about specific skill set for sales. How is that in terms of customer service? Because I think that has to be probably even more important when you're representing the business. Who does
Right.
the training? How do you do it? Does the company get involved? How does that work?
Typically with customer service, the company will have, it'll have a training program because they're doing their own customer service as well. So it's a train-the-trainer scenario where we will provide the technical connections between our system and their systems, and then we'll have our trainer, the trainers will get involved with their trainer, get trained, and initially train the first group of people, and then as we replace people on the team, we then take it over. And so that training, we've got a learning management system that people actually have a SCORM compliant training deal. We can drop it in there and agents can self-train, take the test, do the whole thing. And that's, again, it's $2 an agent a month, which was really an amazing deal. I mean, usually these things are thousands of dollars. But we don't really have much SCORM compliant material to put in there. But, we're basically trained through PowerPoint, we train through Word docs, different things. And we use a lot of GoToMeeting and role plays. And with customer service, frequently that'll be scripted in the system as well, because there'll be lookups that need to be done and so forth. Done.
Thank you.
And this is